Welcome to the Out on a Limb podcast. We are all interconnected to a greater web of consciousness. Our aim is to open your mind to a new world through having open-minded discussions about what we perceive our reality to be.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out on a Limb podcast, where we're going to go anyway, even though we're laughing at ourselves, because we're laughing at ourselves because we're going to talk about sacred geometry today. And none of us are experts on it. So this is sacred geometry, like 101.
For dummies.
But
we do
even,
this a lot.
even more elementary.
And I think this came from a viewer suggestion, did it not?
I think somebody asked for it, or I had it down as a note.
Yeah.
I hope this gives them something good then.
Yeah.
I think it'll introduce you to a couple of the major common
Players.
symbols.
Yeah.
Okay. And because we did a show on numerology already, sacred geometry is related to numerology, and those are the building blocks
Right.
of the universe. So the way you get sacred geometry is through the numbers.
Right.
And we're going to kind of talk about the way that looks. But, sacred symbols are
Energetic symbols. And
energetic. Yeah. All of these types of the sacred geometry are symbols that are, hello.
He got excited.
I
And
mean,
we're going to get into that one in a
Right.
minute.
Oh,
But they're energetic symbols
yeah.
which
that
become
harness energy.
thought forms, which,
Sure.
which have the life of their own.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about numerology and how, and it's all based upon numbers, and what comes to mind is, now the actor's name is eluding me, but the one that has the, he's been working with different shapes.
Terrence
Like-
Howard?
Terrence Howard,
Oh,
thank you
yeah,
very
yeah.
much, yes.
Like
Wow, where did that
platonic?
come from?
Right, you just pulled that one out of absolute
Because
midair.
I thought he was going towards Charmed and how they use pentagrams and stuff.
No, that's a witchy show. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, Terrence Howard, and he has a name, and I think it's
Platonic
Platonic
solids.
Platonic
Yeah.
solids, but he goes very in depth about how all of it is numerically linked,
Yeah.
and how it has, and how those numeric links create the platonic solids, which then create other things, which create the sacred geometry. And then he gets into a whole other realm of stuff.
So, okay, quick aside. We're going to set that aside just a second. Have you seen, I'm just curious about this, little side
Yeah.
bar here, but I've heard people kind of trying to bash Terrence Howard. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But it seems like he does.
He does, and it's kind of the same lines as Billy Carson. And there's a big kerfluffle with Billy Carson right now, where they're like Terrence Howard. How he's coming about his information is a story in upon itself. So
Because I think he's getting it more through consciousness rather than education.
Right.
And so a lot of physicists or PhD people are
Yes.
saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no background.
it's lumped into that pseudoscience aspect of things.
I have more, to me, that gave me more validation
Absolutely.
for him.
Absolutely. That's when he was on
Okay.
Rogan, he talked about when he was a child and how all this stuff started kind of coming in and throughout his life. This was always just present in his life. But he really he didn't have an avenue to do anything with it. And then now he started companies around it and different things. But Billy Carson, a lot of his information
And Billy Carson, who's
He's
he?
more about UFO and
Okay.
ancient sites and things,
and
right?
histories and stuff like that.
More than
And so he does espouse a level of, what's the best word to say, of authenticity to his information, that it's the only truth, or that it is the truth. And he was recently put up against an individual, not to really challenge him, but it ended up being where he was being
Yeah, that was
challenged on it
interesting.
biblically. This individual is a biblical scholar, and rightly so with the information that he has, and it did. I hate to use the word discredit Billy Carson, because there is a lot of information that Billy Carson has, and he's very wise in what he speaks about, but it does kind of tarnish that reputation. So I think that really takes place, and you can look at, a number of people, even in the metaphysical space, that has happened too, where, they've kind of been, I hate to use the word, but put to the test. And
Well, I think it comes down to this discussion that we had about being your authentic self
Yeah.
and being open to other perspectives. Because if people get in this habit of presenting your
Yes.
same line of thinking, and it becomes real and your truth, and you're not open to other interpretations or other people's perspective or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you don't shift and adjust based on new information,
Okay, I'm piggybacking off of that now because it was interesting because that's something that our friend Suzanne harps on a lot about how people, they come by this information and they present it this way and then it's like all they got.
it's
Correct.
the only truth that they have.
Yeah, and they
Right.
don't expand, they don't adjust, they don't whatever. And so now they have to commercialize
Well, they've
whatever
built-
they have
Right.
and protect
Yes.
and hedge against.
instead of keep moving forward.
They've built a niche around that one subject matter, and it's, unfortunately, sometimes those subject matters have a very shallow pool.
Yeah.
And there isn't a lot of depth to it to
And now it's
really go.
done. Yeah.
Then you get into a defensive posture about it because you're trying to protect that niche.
Well, I just, since Terrence Howard,
Yeah.
was introduced into our conversation about all of this,
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe some people like me had heard the discrediting and were curious about what that was all about. And so that's why I wanted to bring that up. So thank you.
That more comes, right, like what Allison was saying, is that it's, he's being put up against, some.
Well, he and
who've
Eric
spent their
Weinstein, I
years
think, was on that same podcast
Yes.
and was trying to give the PhD mathematical type of perspective. And they're just on different wavelengths.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about consciousness and somebody else is talking about concrete human mathematics and things like that, you're not going to speak the same language. And so it's
Right.
not going to make sense.
And there are a couple of, there's another individual that has been on Rogan a couple of times that I've watched. I can't think of his name, but he has a place in Alaska called the Boneyard. And it's this, and this is way off subject, but this kind of falls in line with what we're
Okay,
talking
let's
about.
hope you can circle it back.
Yeah.
Right. No, it has nothing to do with sacred geometry, but it has to do with this aspect of discredit, trying to discredit somebody. And anyway, this gentleman has a plot of land that he owns, and he's been washing away the permafrost for years and collecting hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of bones from all different types of animals. It's like a kill pile. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
as he sprays water, tusks, mammoth tusks are falling out, or
geez.
jawbones and it's
It
just,
sounds like that dinosaur thing in Dinosaur, Colorado.
oh.
Where it's a huge mound of dinosaur bones
Yeah.
that have all collected in one spot. So that's what he's.
So very similar. So he's been doing that. Well, the Smithsonian, they, I guess, somehow own some of that property. And I may be completely way off track with this, but they collected a lot of those bones before he owned the property, took them back to New York, to their warehouse in New York, and then they disposed of them in the East River. And so then when he bought the property, he found all this documentation, and now they're trying to discredit him, saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about, that these bones don't exist. We never put them in the East River. Also, the bones that he's talking about that exist, that he says he's finding, those didn't even exist in that portion of Alaska or that portion of the world during that time. But yet he's got evidence.
So they're trying to protect someone's narrative,
Exactly.
someone's PhD.
Exactly. And
that's what it sounds
and
like.
so what
Yeah.
one of the very first episodes that I watched was he gave the coordinates exactly where on paper that he had from the documentation that he had, where they dumped these bones, and they went on a search. People went on a search for them, and they were finding these mastodon bones in the East River where they
Wow.
shouldn't be. Right.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. So there's
okay.
there's a whole like thread that this unweaves to, but
There's some effery going on there.
yeah. So anyway,
All
so
right.
that's how I circled it
Okay.
back. So hopefully
Thank you.
that was a rabbit hole that we quickly jumped into. So
We dug it up and we disposed
That's
of
right.
it, didn't we? In the East
And we
River.
circled back and we're about to talk about a circle.
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So when we talk about sacred geometry, we're talking about the building blocks of the universe. And it started with the monad. And Will's going to put up a little picture there for you. The monad or the dot.
That's what the monad is. Is that what the same
So
thing
it
in the
is
spiritual sense?
It's a single point. Yeah. That's what it is. The one.
I've never heard of that.
Well,
The monad is the point of consciousness where everything is together in one.
haven't you channeled something about the monad? You still wouldn't know.
I don't recall
but-
that word being used.
Well, because I haven't heard it used until
Magenta
again,
Pixie uses it a
Susanna
lot.
said something, said something about it. I'm kind of going, Suzanne, what are you talking about? And she goes, yeah, there's this, and then there's the monad, and then there's, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of that.
We need to
Now
have
here
her.
you're
We
bringing-
need to have her on
Okay.
speed dial.
Magenta Pixie was, phone a friend, has talked about the monad before.
Okay.
Anyway, it's
So
the,
it's the point?
the single point is seen as representing the beginning of creation, the first spark of divine energy that gave rise to the universe. From that single point, all other shapes and forms in sacred geometry are said to have emerged.
You got to call it something.
Right. And so, secondly, one of the first shapes to emerge from that single point, and we're going to have Will put that up on the screen, is and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, the Vesica Piscis. It looks like Pisces, but it has an IS, Piscis. So that is often seen as a symbol of the union of spirit and matter. So you go from this single point of basically spirit or God, and it breaks into two interlocking links, the union of spirit and matter, the merging of the physical and the spiritual. And it's said to represent the beginning of duality. So this is what we're talking about. When God created life, God created everything, it went from this one aspect, the point, into duality, spiritual and physical, and light and dark, good and bad, the duality.
Just as the egg begins to cleave, and what that
Or divide.
right, and what it looks like is a very simple Venn diagram.
Yes.
Two overlapping circles, and in
Right.
the middle you have an opening, and that opening, I would say, would be where consciousness resides.
Oh.
Right? So you've got spirituality, and you've got, or what did you say? You said it was the two.
It's the beginning of duality.
Yeah.
Physical and spiritual.
Yeah, right. It's physical and spiritual.
Spirit and matter.
So-
Also masculine and feminine.
Yeah. So
I'm just wondering if Stefano Matthias de Stefano. Okay, I said it wrong. Matthias de Stefano. I wonder, because he talks about the beginning of the universe, like and from what he has downloaded, what's been presented to him. And so he was talking about how there's one, and then there's two, and then and I wonder if he brought up monad. Anyway, go ahead.
He might have. Yeah. So then the next shape to emerge from that single point is the seed of life. I wasn't going to talk too much about that one. Oh, yeah. Yes, we were. Sorry.
Yeah, seed of life would
The
be kind
seed of
important.
life. Okay. So at the heart of sacred geometry lies the seed of life. It's a design that's made up, and we'll have it up on the screen, of 7 intertwined circles. It looks simple and symmetrical, but the implications run deep. In other words, the seed of life is often seen as a representation of the 7 days in which the world was created, for example. Each overlapping circle can be seen as a cell, a cycle, or a day, culminating in the interconnectedness of nature's life processes.
See, and that to me, when you talk about the significance of the 7, then that to me goes back to, okay, there's 7 days in a week, and there were supposed to be 4 weeks and a month. There's supposed to be 28 days.
Right, and then you get to
we
13 months,
changed
and
it.
yeah.
And it should have been the 13. We'd all be on a better, I think, timeline.
Rhythm,
I
yeah.
wonder how much that jankied all of our reality.
I wonder what the point was. Was it to separate us from this natural rhythm?
probably just
natural cycle.
like in the music realm where they switched everything from 432 to 440.
Yeah.
And it was for discords. It
To
was
disrupt.
to disrupt the natural cycles of actual
Yeah.
music.
You guys, we're coming up with some major profound truths here. I
That
just
is-
want you to know that.
That is still a controversy, the 432 and 440.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that makes, like, if the seed of life is that significant, and you look at that about how it's part of the 7 days, then you would think,
Right.
you'd go into the whole calendar system
Yeah.
and how we it got jankied with.
And when I see these symbols, and again, they'll be up on the screen, I do go back to Terrence Howard and how he explains these interlocking points, because that's how he came up with a lot of his
The mathematical stuff.
Yeah, well, and these interlocking points there's a specific thing that he talks about these the overlap points where all of the lines overlap and create a intersection. He does talk about that in some significant manner. Yeah.
Cool. Well, then you guys might want to follow up with the Rogan episode. You'll learn a heck of a lot more.
He's on Rogan?
He was on Rogan a while back. Yeah.
Okay.
So one other thing about the seed of life is that its design is said to imbue objects with a sense of protection and blessing, and that it brings positivity and wards off negativity. So you can wear it as jewelry or use it in art or decorations or whatever if you're interested in protection and blessing.
Not part of your... No, okay.
Nope.
All right, so the second one that I wanted to talk about, and it, as you see it on the screen, the flower of life, it almost looks like, I think it is, isn't it? The seed of life spread out, right? Look at the seed of life.
Well, it's
and you
more
have this
of
all of
it's more
duplicated
of the,
or whatever.
Right, it's more of the circles. Yeah.
But how many
Multiples.
circles? 49? 7 times 7 is 49.
Is it in there?
I wonder.
Okay, it says the flower of life is depicted as a series of 19 interlocking circles enveloped by a larger encompassing circle. So 20
All right.
altogether.
Interesting.
That's one of those good ones. You put it up there. How many circles do you see?
Right.
And your eyes go blurry.
Yeah, and you forget that
You
the
lose
one
count,
you
yeah.
forget the one around is also a
True,
circle.
right.
Yeah.
And the flower of life is believed to be the cosmic blueprint, encoding the very design of every atomic structure, life form, and essentially all known existence.
Yeah.
So that is
Wow.
like the foundation of everything. And then we're not going to show this one necessarily, but this is what you were showing me if you wanted to bring it on your phone. But the within the elegant design, you will find the tree of life.
Okay. And that's the crazy thing. And like,
You don't
I'm not-
see it when you're looking at it like this.
yeah.
It's the same, and we'll get to this, but as far as the sacred geometry of the Merkabah, you don't see the three-dimensional piece of it when it's within the drawing.
So within the flower of life that you were looking at on the screen, you can find the egg of life, which we didn't go over, and the seed of life, and also this tree of life, which we didn't go over.
Yeah. And so should I mention anything about the tree of life here? Or are you going on to
Sure, go
others?
ahead.
So these guys just solved something that was quite the mystery for me for the longest time. This is kind of funny. And I did bring it up the last time I was here, like just talking to y'all about it, like trying to explain it. But it didn't register, like we didn't, okay, anyway.
Right.
So I had this client who, she's got all of this awareness happening. Like it's just things are coming in. She's realizing she's wanting to organize and, structure spiritual programs for people in an area of South Carolina you'd never imagine would be, becoming a spiritual nexus. And anyway, so she's talking about this. And so she's like, is there anything else I need to know? And I'm having trouble sleeping at night or something like this. And but it was more than just the sleeping. There was something additional to that. And the information I was getting, I get these downloads and it's like, if I could only draw, if I could just get a snapshot of my freaking brain. So I'm trying to describe to her, like they're showing this crystal, and I'm like, it's like in the shape of a cradle. And there are these points, like geometric points.
I remember you talking about this, actually.
Yeah, and so they're like where the head is. There are these geometric points that are wider, and then it shoots back to these geometric points, or where the feet are. And they were saying to envision this around you, and it was really specific because it's like you're not down in it. Your body is like, it comes up to the sides.
Kind of, floating in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're protected by it, but you're not engulfed by it. And to picture that around you, and then that will buoy you and somehow like it was going to do whatever it was going to do. I don't remember. And it was her information anyway. So, but, I have, I've been like, what is this? How do this must exist. Like, where is this thing? And then Allison, before we started, she shows me this and she goes, "Oh, look, it's right here." It's like,
Yeah.
it's part of the sacred geometry. It's a cradle, but it's the tree of life.
Right.
So that's what it looked like. It looked like
Yes.
that. That's what the cradle looked like.
Literally.
So we'll put it up on the
Yeah,
screen.
the tree
Yeah,
of life
please
we'll put
do.
up
Because
there.
it's, I mean, now I got to find it and send it to her because I'm just sitting there going, holy crap. Like, you know, when we download this stuff and we're trying to explain it to clients, we're like, I am not making this stuff up. It's coming from somewhere. And so then when you see from a totally different place and the fact that it has that significance to it, you just go, oh my God, it's real info. It's not, you know, it's.
Isn't that fun? That's so much fun.
That was a cool moment.
But it is difficult, as you say, as a medium or a psychic or whatever, to try to get the pictures in your brain and relay them to the client in a way that it makes sense and it connects with them. And that's why it can be an inexact science.
Yeah, I just keep thinking if I could just take art classes so I can like shape it out for people, and I'm like, but I'm not interested in art to do that, so I can't.
I mean,
do
I
it.
feel like I'm pretty artsy, and I've had some very interesting shapes and stuff show up in my visions or when I'm doing sessions with people. There's no way I can even I can't get that from here to here because it's not that it's so abstract, but I don't think it's at that moment is meant to be put on paper, right? It's
If it was meant to be, you'd be able to do
right.
it. Yeah,
Exactly,
I agree with that.
Because I remember early on that it was shortly after we started awakening, and I don't know if you remember that, but it was during a dream where
when you channeled the
I was
symbols?
right. I was taken up to like a I don't know. I guess it was like around a fire, and there was a master that was there, and he instructed me to write these symbols in the air, and
practice them
in the air over and over and over and over again until I could, until they were ingrained. And there were 3 symbols. And I came out of that dream going, holy crap, I got 3 symbols, but I can't even tell you what they look like.
I know.
I don't know. What do they
that's
mean?
frustrating.
And I'm like,
So then that was when you first started channeling.
Right.
And when somebody was putting you under.
yeah.
Excuse me. So when we did that, we had her put you under and we asked you to draw them again.
Yeah.
And so your hand was drawing them, but it wasn't like you could reproduce that on paper.
Right. So it's,
You needed to put a piece
Yeah.
of paper in.
Right.
I think they said that the purpose of those were to help others awaken or something. Or
Yeah. So who knows? They might still come out. I mean, the only one that I think that was close to representing something that I already kind of knew was the Ohm symbol, the electrical Ohm symbol.
Oh,
Which is
Which
the
is,
horseshoe.
it's the upside down
yeah.
horseshoe or with the leg. Yeah. It's so,
Or North Node. Or
yeah.
whatever.
So,
Cool. Well, this one is a big
is.
deal for us because it's associated with Enoch, Archangel Metatron, and that's called the Merkabah. So the Merkabah carries a profound meaning. Its very name translates to light, spirit, body. And at its core, the symbol is a fusion of 2 tetrahedrons interlocked and rotating in opposite directions. So we don't talk about that much. That's actually a rotating thing.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
This dynamic intersection is believed to birth an energy field or a light body that radiates with immense power. Now, it's also believed that each individual possesses their own personal Merkabah. We've heard this
Yep.
to be true. And with disciplined meditation, you can awaken and harness that Merkabah energy, tapping into its protective aura and even journeying through the higher planes of consciousness within that Merkabah. Now, a lot of times in our client sessions, did you show it already?
Yeah. I held it up, but I'll have a better picture.
A lot of times in our client sessions, they'll say one of your primary guides is Archangel Metatron, and you are to envision the Merkabah around you for healing. So a lot of them will have a healing journey, and they're in there to be comforted and held as then Raphael might help them with the healing journey. So I also tell people it's kind of like a 3D Star of David. So if you were to flatten it into 2D, that's what it would look like.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I would love to see a video like that has the 3D aspect of it spinning opposite
I think
ways.
I had that at one point. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
I'll
would.
put it up. Yeah.
That would be really, really cool to see.
And I know we alluded to
And
it,
this
but
goes
yeah.
to the next one,
And what's
Metatron's
Oh, so
cube.
that is Metatron on your thing.
So you've got Metatron's cube
As he
with the
covers my
Merkabah.
face.
Sorry. Sorry, but yeah.
Hi, Sam. I'm going to hang out with you over here for a while.
Wait, so it's
So-
Metatron with what?
So,
So you-
Metatron's cube is the whole thing.
That's the Metatron's cube is the again, if we're going back to sacred geometry of the two-dimensional plane of the interlocking
So you have the
circles.
7 circles.
Right.
Right.
And then there are also interlocking circles within it. So there's also additional, 7 circles that are within it, and then there's another central core circle. But then when you cross or draw lines between them all, you actually derive the
Merkabah.
three-dimensional Merkabah out of the middle of it. So that's where that.
Right.
Wow.
So what they said about this one is that
I just had a vision of him with his arm like that, and it projected upwards, and that it's right there doing it. And
Yeah.
are you aware that it's
Yeah,
doing
so
that?
when I wanted to get this tattoo, I knew that I messed around with a couple different versions of this on the computer, and when I overlaid this on top of it, when I overlaid the three-dimensional aspect, virtually this, into the center, yes, it more became a three-dimensional projection than it was a two-dimensional on my skin.
Yeah, it just feels like you should be able to get into that that mode
Yeah.
and be able to have it operating right here.
It's always been.
It probably is, huh?
The Merkabah has always been a symbol that the three-dimensional aspect has always been something I've been drawn to right from the beginning when we started doing this work. And it's always been just, so
Okay, I'm not ready to let this up yet.
Well-
So don't you bring in through your left arm? I always thought you brought in energy through your left and you.
give it on your right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And so I see that, Will, you've got something more than I think what you realize.
just-
Because they're showing, I'm telling you this, like, you're
getting
drawing
real
in
here.
energy, and it's like you could sit there and send this energy out to people if you were doing energy healing.
Well, and I will say once I had it, and then we did some Reiki sessions, it is kind of the amplifying force when I'm working with.
Okay.
Yeah, because, what I say by that is, a lot of times the clients will get on the table and their energy is a bit scattered, and I sense that right away. It's like it's everywhere, and I can't really get into the work until their energy settled on the table, and so this allows me to kind of pull all over their energy and condense it back into their body, and then settle it, and
Okay.
then I really get into it. So yeah, I haven't really thought about it in the manner that you're speaking, but yes, my intention was I knew it had to go here, not only just because I already have this arm filled, but it just, when I was looking at it, and I even, like with the girl that did it, I said it needs to be this big because I had it already measured out, and I said I want it in line up the center of my arm,
Yeah.
so that it has equal spacing across each side. I mean, I had it all thought out, probably not knowing the intensity of why I was doing it, but I
Yeah.
just knew that it had to be in this location right here, spaced evenly and all that. And even the girl that did it,
Excuse me,
you.
goodness gracious.
her work is phenomenal, and she's done a ton of work. When she got done with it, she just couldn't stop staring at it. She said, "This is the best piece that I've ever done. There's something about this piece that just really is."
Well, it's a hologram. It is definitely a hologram. Like
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I was saying I'm seeing it up here, and I'm not sure if it's projecting up here right now, but it is like
When it's
pretty
activated,
awesome.
when it's activated, I don't see it as a hologram, but I do feel it activating, meaning I do feel the energy shift, and it basically shifts around me. So when I activated
Jeez,
it,
that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Okay.
And so so like here's a little one of a moonstone, and
Baby Merkabah.
right, and I use it. This is I call it my fidget toy, but when I'm doing personal readings, which I haven't done in a long time, but this is my totem that I hold on to when I'm working with clients one-on-one to do readings and stuff, because it allows me to, because it is sharp on each one of the points, I use it as kind of a indicator of when I need to shift my energy, and I'll roll it around and I'll feel a little bit of like a pinprick on it, and I'm like, okay, nope, I'm not in the right area. So it's telling me where.
Interesting.
It's got a lot of features that I just, when it's rolling around in my hand, oh no, I got to move in a different direction. That's not the right direction. Or
Wow.
So it's very
You're
useful.
learning new things.
I didn't know that.
How very cool.
But what's interesting, he's always felt connected to the Merkabah
Right.
because you've been connected with Enoch. Now,
Enoch, yeah.
Enoch was the incarnate version, the physical version of Archangel Metatron. He
Metatron.
ascended to become
Yeah.
Archangel Metatron, only one of two archangels to do so. The other was Elijah, who became Sandalphon.
Yep.
And so because Archangel Metatron is associated with this Merkabah and the Metatron's cube, Will has always felt that connection to that. So I wanted to mention a little bit more about Archangel Metatron that they talk about. He's apparently the celestial scribe or the voice of the divine. Such divine scribes are believed to possess an understanding of the foundational principles of creation, often symbolized through this sacred geometry. So Metatron's cube, we were talking about this, encompasses 13 circles ensconced within a grander circle. Linking the centers of those 13 circles results in the formation of Metatron's cube.
Yep.
Can I see the
So
big one?
interesting.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember ordering this ordering one off of Amazon, which right there is the problem, because you don't know if you're going to get a real crystal or
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's about the size of that. And does that feel like it's almost nothing, weightless?
No, it has a little weight to it.
Yeah. See, the thing that I got that's supposed to be onyx feels like.
It's light.
Yeah, it
Onyx
feels
would
like
be
it's
heavy.
got to be epoxy or something.
Yeah, I believe that one is polished shungite.
Oh, that's nice. Huh.
What other thing is interesting is the platonic solids, which I don't think we showed up there, but you guys can look them up. There's 5 of them. They all can be found within Metatron's cube.
Yep. Yep.
So it means that Metatron's cube is this bridge transforming the 2-dimensional realities, the platonic solids, into 3-dimensional realms. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think if I remember right, he does go in to explain the when you look at the Metatron's cube, you're not looking at a single plane. You're looking at a dimensional
Right,
plane.
right. It has depth.
Right, because the way he describes it, and he said you can use this
Who
with
is
the
he
other
again?
one, Terrence Howard.
Oh, okay.
Is that because we draw things in a singular plane, like interlocking circles, but really what you're representing is a three-dimensional.
spheres.
Is a 3-dimensional sphere, and so if you're interlocking these 3-dimensional spheres, you're unlocking the creative potential of the origin of existence. Yeah, so
That's pretty heavy.
he goes in. Oh, yeah. If you want to get into that, it goes very deep, but it is. And so yeah. So if you take each one of these circles and envision that as a sphere, well, now you're really getting into that whole holographic.
Yeah, I mean,
Representation.
there's that vision is not leaving me alone. Like it keeps coming
Wow.
back. Like there's something
Yeah.
very significant. So when you said that, I could see those coming up, and then like it's weird.
Yeah.
So there's
And-
something there.
And
Maybe
and
you'll dream about it.
now, granted, it is and I hate to get off on this tangent of tattoos, but I mean, there's detail to it to the point that everything is so evenly spaced, and she nailed the detail on that spacing. That's what I think is so,
when it's not a flat
charging.
surface.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's so, and that's, I think, what charges it with, because again, my intention was I knew what I wanted. I knew how it wanted to be designed, and I knew how it wanted to be on my arm. And then she took it from there and actually did it.
And if
So-
you're looking to go to her as a tattoo artist, sorry guys, she was in Norfolk. She's a good friend of my daughter, our daughter, and he just got out of the Navy, and so they're moving
Yep.
to New York, I think.
Yep, he just got hired on with 3 Mile Island, so,
Wow.
yeah.
All right. So the next one is a really famous one that everybody's probably familiar with, and that is Fibonacci sequence, the Fibonacci spiral, which we'll put up there.
Which is actually on the cover of your Journey Within.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Is that what it is?
I think it's an right. You want me to get
It's
it?
sure, get it.
So who
it's a
is
spiral of
Fibonacci? Was it a dude that came up with this? Okay.
Here, his name. I have his name. His name was Leonardo of Pisa, more commonly known as Fibonacci. He was in, I guess,
Because Fibber McGee didn't sound
somewhere
good.
around 700 CE.
Wow.
Well, this is the old one, but it still represents.
Wait, discourse in his seminal work, Liber Abaci. It's almost like Liberace.
Good point.
But it's
noticing these
sequential. Thank you, Jesus. Spiral, and it occurs naturally in just about everything
The
on the
shell
planet.
and things like that we'll put up there.
And it's important
But
for photography.
It is directly a mathematical principle
Yes.
that gets mapped out on a graph.
369. Yep.
Well, no, this one's not the 369. It's
it's
the
not.
It's
I thought it was.
0. You take 0 plus the next number 1. So you have a 0, then you have a 1, and then you take the 1 plus the 2 is the 3.
Oh.
The 3 plus the 2 is the 5. The 5 plus the 3 is the 8, and it's a series of numbers like that goes on
Oh,
out.
okay. Okay.
And then it creates this spiral. But 369, Tesla said that if you could figure out the mystery behind 369, you'd understand the universe. Yeah.
Thanks, Tesla.
But everything has to do with 369.
So why didn't you just tell us?
I think, didn't he get killed?
Well, we'll put him on the list right after Eisenhower.
Yeah, there we go. It's
You
disclosure.
gotta watch another. You gotta watch
disclosure
another
year.
episode to understand that comment.
The one previous to this, maybe?
Yeah.
So they said one of the most awe-inspiring revelations about this sequence is its omnipresence in the natural world, especially in botanical forms.
Oh, yeah.
So seed arrangements in sunflowers,
Yeah.
the spiral patterns in pine cones, they all adhere to the Fibonacci. I mean, this is saying that it underscores nature's inherent mathematical design.
Yes.
So this is the point when we were in the numerology episode. Everything is about numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers hold vibration. Numbers come together to create everything that we see in our existence. Everything can be pulled apart down to its foundational numbers.
And it's the one truth, right? Because like you could communicate through, if you communicate through numbers, it doesn't change. It stays
Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
It should be the same everywhere in the universe.
yeah.
You know, and it's interesting, we're talking about interlocking circles and all this stuff. And now, I'll be the first one to admit, I am not a mathematical scholar at all. And I hated fractions. I hated anything to do with fractions. But yet,
I couldn't do fractions.
right, but I work with wood, I work with metal, and that requires the use of fractions
Yeah.
a lot. Now, some would say, well, why don't you use the metric system? Well, I don't. So that's the world I live in. I should. But you don't need the use of understanding fractions when you understand that if you draw a circle, and if you're trying to find a portion of a line or trying to find a portion of an angle or anything else, you can use other circles to find what you're trying to get to. And you don't need that equation of this fraction, that fraction minus this fraction to that fraction. It's all, you can divide things by using intersections on circles.
Huh.
Okay.
That I don't know.
So
Yes,
I
I've used it many times.
was passed in my math class in college because my professor said, if I give you a D, do you promise never to come back to try to get a better grade? And I agreed.
Oh my God.
I cannot do, like, that just made my brain, I love geometry because geometry is more stories,
Yeah.
theorems
Oh,
and
gosh,
stuff.
no.
Well, see, it's personality, like, it's like if you go towards this, then it means your brain works this way or whatever.
Right,
But,
right.
this is a fun one. I had a really brilliant math teacher, geometry teacher, in boarding school in Maryland. And his whole thing was, I mean, we adored this guy because he made math come alive.
Wow.
And so one of his exercises that has always stuck with me, he said, I want you to close your eyes. And he goes, what I want you to do, because we were talking about circles and, and space and spatial relationships of things and all this stuff. He said, I want you to simply go find the corner of the universe. Your brain will short circuit. Like, just try it. Like, close your eyes and, you're in this darkness or whatever.
Yeah.
And you go out to try to find the corner of the universe, and your brain will literally, like, there'll be like this little
start to smell
steam.
burning.
Yeah, like it was fascinating. We were all just kind of going, oh my God, like it hurts so badly.
Right.
Our brains weren't meant to, like, it can't
compute that.
no, cannot.
Well, it goes down to.
You could ask AI, where is the corner of the universe?
Right.
Well, I was shown the seam of the universe.
You were shown that?
Yeah, like that was one of my visitation things where it was the same individual that took me to the ships.
Yeah.
The UFOs took me because it was the same energy. It was a male, like I would say it was masculine, but it took me to the seam of the universe, which looks like if you take a book, like hand me that book. I'll show you exactly what the seam of the universe looks like. That's the seam of the universe.
Oh, yeah.
It looks exactly like that. There's this, so it's like you just open a book and you'll see there's like the whiteness, and it just extended beyond my vision. But this line went across, and it's like, I don't think that it just sits there like that. I think that it's constantly unfolding, so it's constantly being split back. So things are constantly, maybe being birthed into being. I don't know.
Wow.
But it was,
That is fascinating.
and it's just like, we want you to understand this. And I'm looking at it going,
Sure.
like,
You can want me to understand all day long, but whether
but I explained it pretty well, didn't I? Like, and I have a better understanding now that I've been going through some of the studies I've been going through. I get, like the whole idea that, like, I didn't understand that it was rolling. And when I say things like I just did, it's because all of a sudden that piece is locked into
You get that
place.
awareness.
Yeah. And so it's constantly in movement. Somebody had said to me, oh, is it like a black hole? And I'm like, no. Well, I mean, maybe
the opposite of a black hole?
like what happens after things go through the grinder of a black hole and then it comes open like that.
It splays open.
Yeah, who knows? But it was
But I think we
fascinating.
cut you off. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
You were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, I was just thinking about this. We're talking about this interlocking circles and all of that, and how they can be three-dimensional in a sphere form in the origin story, and how the ones we just talked about,
Orions?
the Orions, where they talk about the bubbles,
Oh, yeah.
and how everything is within its own
Bubbles
bubble,
touching.
right? And all these different bubbles overlap each other. So that is very reminiscent of the origin of life, of sacred geometry, of overlapping bubbles, or bubbles that are aligning to themselves to create the flower of life, or the seed of life, or anything else. So,
And that's interesting, because then this guy who I've caught on to every once in a while, Darren, I think it's Darren something, or Daryl White, where he does dream walking, where he does lucid dreaming kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's done it ever since he was a kid. Didn't really understand the significance of it. And his, I guess it's his uncle or his grandfather, like, took him aside and really helped develop that ability or something. But anyway, he talked about being able to see our universe and how it's just bubble against bubble against bubble.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
And how there these beings that are just looking at, like, we are constantly surrounded and being observed and everything. But it's just, he said, it's like a bubble, and then there's another bubble and another bubble. So there's like no space in between or something, or like.
No, there's not.
well, and that's
Yeah.
They just bleed into each
another.
other.
Well,
Yeah.
right, but I mean, if you take multiple spheres and you interlock them together, there is going to be a space there. But Terrence Howard talks about that space and the power within that space,
Which is
So
the same thing on your hand.
right.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to that. So it's, again, go down the rabbit holes.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I know we're just kind of like, yeah, we don't know anything about this.
We have
And
no
yet-
idea what we're talking about.
And yet we've tripped across so much stuff
Yeah.
that all feeds onto one another. That's what I love about these discussions.
And what's interesting is our friend Reverend Polk. You can
yeah.
watch his interview. Baptist pastor, retired now. But when we met, he had a workbook that he would use with his Christian
Yep.
followers, his congregation or whatever,
Congregation,
in classes. And it was called The Journey Within or Journeying Within or something.
I think it was The Journey Within.
Or even just the journey, whatever. But it was almost identical to this book, The Journey Within.
Mm-hmm.
And on the front of it is the flower of life.
Right.
So sacred geometry. So this sacred geometry stuff is not
It's not
woo-woo.
nothing.
It's normal. I mean, it is mathematical, and it's not just
everywhere.
for metaphysical folks.
I
for
mean,
everybody.
and when you do, what are they called? Mandalas. Mandalas are just interlocking. You can do spheres, you can do squares, but it ends up being a sequence of numbers over and over again that create the mandala. And that a mandala is meant to take you into a consciousness point, pull you away from your moment that you're doing it.
Right.
into-
Distract your left brain.
to distract your left brain so you can get into that open space of consciousness.
Really?
You know, that's reminding me of the spirograph. Remember when we were kids and we
Oh,
had the
yeah.
spirograph?
Love
And
spirograph.
so you put your pen in these wheels and
Yeah.
you just continue. And that's a mathematical thing too. It's an over and over and over
Yeah.
again pattern to create these pieces of sacred geometry, essentially,
Yeah, they were.
based on mathematical principles.
Look at that. We were playing
Circles.
with sacred geometry when we were a kid. We didn't even know it. And we were brain surgeons when we were playing with
Operation.
Operation. I killed a lot of my patients.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well, thanks. I hope this piqued your interest at least enough to want to go explore some more. There's a lot of other pieces of sacred geometry that we didn't cover, like the torus field that looks like the donut, all that kind of stuff.
And if you've got experiences with sacred geometry in your life and how you use it, please, reach out, put it in the comments, let us know.
Or if you are an expert.
Or
No,
well,
maybe not an expert, but an aficionado.
Don't tell us how
and-
bad
yeah.
we did.
right? Yeah, please.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, we've got thick skin. We'll be fine.
At any rate, thanks for joining us on this fun romp through sacred geometry, and like the video by hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, and do all the things, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.